Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to go through an activity where we can practice some of the aggregating and sorting functionality that we learned in the previous video. So this is in the Pandas 2 reading, and if you scroll to the bottom you see this first activity where we're going to need to download a data file called planets.csv, save it in our CSCI 127 folder, and then we also need to download planets.py, also save it, make sure you save it in the same folder so that you will be able to find your CSV file, and then let's just go ahead and open it with idle. So we can see in this Python source code we have some import statements, and then we have one Python statement here where we read in planets.csv using pandas and we save it as a data frame called planets. So let's just go ahead and print planets.head, which is how we look at the first 5 rows to make sure that we have successfully read this file in. Alright, and it looks like we are getting the first 4 rows, so that is great. Or excuse me, first 5 rows, because that's what we get when we call head. So let's take a look at what we are supposed to do. So to start off, we want to print the shape of the data, which is always a good thing to do. So what is the shape? It's the rows and the columns. So let's print ourselves a little message. Rows equals whatever I pass in first to my format method, and columns equals whatever I pass in second. Now I'm going to call format on this string, and what will I pass in first? Shape at 0 and shape at 1, remembering that the shape attribute of the planets data frame is a tuple where the first entry is the rows and the second entry is the columns. So let's just take a look at this and see what we get. And it looks like in this data set there are a little over 1,000 rows, 6 columns. We can see those: method, number, orbital period, mass, distance, and year. Now let's just give ourselves another line here, and let's take a look at what else we need to do. Print the average orbital period in the data set. I'm just going to copy this and put it in as a comment. Okay, so just looking at our output here, it looks like the orbital period column has name orbital underscore period, and it looks like it has some numbers in it, and we want to print the average. So what can we do? We'll say, let's create a variable average orbital period, and what should that be? That should be whatever our data frame at the column orbital period dot mean returns to us, because we can get the average of a column by calling mean on that column. And now let's go ahead and print that out. The average orbital period is, and this time I'm going to use the, instead of .format, I'll just pass in 2 arguments to my print function. Average orbital period is the second one, and now I'll just print this string, a space, and then this second variable. So let's take a look at that. And it looks like we still have our shape output, and now we're getting that the average orbital period is a little over 2,000. That seems reasonable. What do we need to do next? Print out the number of entries in the dataset per method. So what do we want to do here? First I'll write print out the number of entries per method. So what do I want here? We see that there's this method column, and we want for each distinct entry in method, one way I don't think we've learned yet, but we can see each distinct entry in method using the planets. So method is the column we're interested in. If we were just to print this, we'd print everything in that column. So let's just see what that looks like. But let's say I just wanted to know the unique names. Well, I can just call the unique method on this column. And so as you're working with pandas, I think it's always a good idea, if there's something that you're interested in doing, you can probably find a method to do it. And so just go ahead and try looking that up using Google, or maybe starting at the documentation. But anyway, let's see what this does. So here we see these are all the unique methods in our data set. Now, we don't just want to print out these unique methods, we actually want the number of entries per method. And luckily, we actually saw a way to get that, which was value counts. Value counts counts the number of times that each method appears in the data set. So maybe I'll print a little message for myself. The number of times each method appears in the data set is, and I'm also going to print a line break so I can look at my output a little nicer. So now it looks like there's a lot of rows with radial velocity as the method, not quite as many with transit as the method, etc. I think maybe this is how these things were measured, but regardless, we still get to practice our pandas commands. And finally, it says create a pandas data frame giving the median orbital period by measurement method. Oh yeah, I'm claiming it's the measurement method in the data set. So maybe I'll just copy this over into a comment because I like to see what I am supposed to do. Maybe I'll just say method. Okay, so what does this sound like? This sounds like a group by, right? We would like to group the data in the pandas data frame by what? By the method. So let's first do that. I'm going to say group by method is what? It's planets dot group by and then what do I pass into group by? I pass the name of the column that I would like to group by. That should be method. And then what can I do with this group by object? Well, I can aggregate it. We've seen the mean aggregation, and now we're going to see the median aggregation, which I get just by calling group by method dot median. And let's just go ahead and print this out and see what it looks like. And let's print another blank line for ourselves just to make it easier to see. And now we see that what has this given us? Well, we see for each method, so these methods are the same as the methods up here: astrometry, eclipse timing variations, imaging, etc. We're getting the median value for each column. Now, there are some that are not a number here. That's because there are some missing values, which we won't cover, but that's okay. But the important thing is that calling median on our group by object is giving the median for each column, but we would like just the orbital period column. So how do we get that? We just ask for the orbital period column using our indexing notation. And maybe I'm going to say print median orbital period by method. And I'll put a colon in there to say that it's the thing that's next. And now let's take a look at this. And so here we have the median orbital period by method. And that, I believe, is our last task in this activity. So I will leave with you with that. If you have any questions, please ask in Slack.